I'm in Massachusetts.
Oh yeah, you don't have to run air conditioning yet. So welcome to Hacking Business Technology, the podcast. Which Hooper, you apparently live out of your car, dude.
I do. Calling from the lovely town of Carr today.
Is that actually a town in Massachusetts? I assume not.
No.
I want to ask where you are because that's probably confidentiality agreements against it, actually.
Yeah, I won't tell you that I'm in Massachusetts.
There's only like 4 million companies in Massachusetts that you could be at. So this week we've got.
I'm here for business. I'm here for personal. This weekend my daughter's getting married.
Oh yeah, congrats! Yeah, nice.
Thank you. So this is a personal trip.
Nice. That's relaxing. So is Jen sitting in the front seat? You
No.
flip the camera on. Hey kids.
No. Well, there is one here. I could.
She's like, Dad, no.
No. She said I'm going to call the podcast and get them to fire you.
There's no such thing. I will never fire you.
Yeah, no, you'll never pay me either. But
I'll never pay you. Which is interesting. You know, what's funny is I got an email today from HDI. They're holding this chapter summit. I don't know if you've ever been on a board for HDI, but they try to get all the officers out to Colorado to participate in illicit activities. No, I'm kidding. They take them out there and teach them, how to be a good chapter officer, how to reach out to the members, how to make the members feel valued, etc. But they never, so the money that they spend on doing that is, it's godly expensive, right? There's hundreds of people showing up and they're all in hotels and there's flying.
Yeah.
Never once do we pay these chapter officers. And that is the part that kind of kills me. Like, if you see value in what people are doing and you're a for-profit company, benefiting off of the backs of volunteers seems so wicked. And that's the problem that I have with it. But I'm a chapter officer, so what am I talking about? I'm the pot calling the kettle black.
Yeah. No, it's true. But not everything comes in monetary value, right? So sometimes people do it for the experience. They do it for the network. They do it for the exposure, right? Personal brand exposure. I mean, a lot of the members of SIM board members do it because of the network, and you're kind of building a family relationship where if you lose your job, you got this network that can help you get hooked up. They come to get to know you. They know your capabilities. And, being on a board is almost like real work. Sometimes worse than real work, So if you can run a board well, if your chapter's thriving and you're doing well and you're doing a great job and you're nailing out projects, you come in with the methodology, all those other people know that you're a rock star. So it's like if they're looking to hire a consultant or they're looking to hire somebody into a certain role, your name always comes up first. So
awesome. See, and that's why I do this podcast, is because you give me wisdom like that and remind me how much worse my life could be if I were part of a chapter that wasn't thriving, or a part of a chapter that was struggling, or, I was a member on a board of 12 people and 11 of them weren't doing anything. Nothing could be worse, I think. That is much more torturous.
Yeah.
However, UBM, I expect a check in the mail at some point. UBM. It's interesting how companies structure that stuff too. In any case, we have tons of things to talk about. There were a couple blog posts this week about DevOps versus ITSM. I didn't post Matt Hooper's blog post about it. I didn't post it on the show notes because I'm trying to incent him to do it himself.
This is a training exercise.
It is. It's a training exercise, which is terrible. This is the
You're
worst
putting the
way to
banana
do it.
on the table, and I have to let go of the buzzer and go get the banana.
Exactly.
Will cold water be poured on me if I grab the banana?
No, we're not cruel. We just want you to learn from this. So the other person that wrote about it this week was Mark Smalley. He had the not similar article, but it basically came to the same conclusions. And he wrote it for that other competing podcast, All Things ITSM, and I say competing, but whatever. They just aren't us. So what?
Different format.
Give me a review of your blog post. I loved it. I thought it was great. The little chart where you talk about ITSM in one column and DevOps in the other. Brill, dude. We need more of that.
Oh, thanks. So the genesis of it is I read an article from HP that was ITIL's dead, and its concepts weren't bad, and I think it referenced John Carr's like IT's going away.
It was HP
stuff. Yeah, you know what it was? It was things like they just said stupid things like ITIL standards and blah blah blah. Well, first of all, ITIL doesn't have any standards. So if you're going to bash something, at least there's a million good things to bash ITIL about. The standards are not one of them because they don't exist. If you want to talk about calling your business partners and business associates customer, I'm all for it. I'm on that bash wagon, right? So it's this ridiculousness that's going on right now that somehow DevOps is the way that you should be running IT. And for many years now, ITSM has been saying, no, this is the way you should run IT, and ITIL being a big reference body of knowledge in that way of running it. And everybody kind of knows that ITIL doesn't meet practical things in many areas, and many areas it's absolutely spot on, and those are the areas that everybody just regurgitates it, like incident and change and request and
the
foundational stuff, right.
Which is surprising when you think about how many companies actually have that stuff figured out or do it right. And there's very few. Ryan Ogilvy, one of our prime listeners. Ryan, thanks for tuning in. You're the best, man. He posted an article this week that was basically about foundational elements. He talked about how, and the link is in the show notes below, he talked about how he was in a meeting and they were talking about when they were having the CAB meeting. Well, the CAB meeting was on Monday and they had all these incidents on Monday, so they moved the CAB meeting to Wednesday. And now all the incidents are on Wednesday, so it's way better. I loved it.
Awesome.
I loved every second of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna read it.
You're right. You need those foundational elements, and really, DevOps, they complement each other. That's what it comes down to.
They build off each other. So what my blog was basically trying to break down is one's dealing it from one perspective, the automation of the people and the activities, and then the other, DevOps is more about taking that automation to the next level. If you don't know what you're doing or why you're doing it, DevOps is not going to help you. So ITSM is a good way. It's like we've all said a million times. I don't care what your process is. As a consultant, I'll come in and tell you, people want to show me their process document. I'm like, I don't care. I really don't care what your process is. Show me how you're measuring it and why you're measuring it.
Nice.
Because if your goal is to have, say, extremely durable systems and tons of uptime, and you're not measuring component level availability, and you're just relying on your tickets calls to come in, then I don't care what your process is. It already stinks. It's bad. I know that. I don't need to review it. Right?
Yeah,
we need to do a step back. Yeah.
You can't replace decent event management with humans. You can't depend on humans to accurately identify degradation of services. Really. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if your business runs off real-time transactions and you don't have application performance management in place, I don't care what your incident management process is. I don't care what your request management process is. It's a fail.
So I muted there for a bit because you can hear my dog in the background. If you work from home, make sure you really do good research on what your breed really likes to do. I've got a terrier, and man, I gotta tell you, teaching him no bark is really tough. But he does pretty well. I should have given him a bone before the podcast. But they're $8 a piece, and I just can't do that every day. And he chews through them in like a minute. But I do love dogs. If you can work with a dog, I strongly recommend it. He keeps me great company. And reminds me to get coffee every once in a while.
That's awesome.
It's interesting. We're talking about bashing. I love that. Bash wagon, dude. I'm using that one for sure. What's funny about that is recently, this week anyway, there were two things that I noticed. Number one, and these links are in the show notes below. Number one is the Wikipedia entry for ITIL actually has a list of critiques of ITIL. It doesn't have this, it doesn't have this, it doesn't, like literally, if I'm Axelos and I'm a senior executive, I'm looking at Wikipedia and I'm saying, This is how we're going to address this. Look, hey, here's our 5-year plan of programs to address these elements. Like you said, get down to the basics. It doesn't have very prescriptive advice on like really basic things in technology. You know, cloud. Doesn't have anything about that. Like it just doesn't differentiate. And maybe you don't want to based on technology or platform or whatever, because it's tough to tie yourself to a ship that someone else has tied themselves to. But that's what a lot of people are looking for, is that practical wisdom, that practical guidance. That's really like, that is why there is such a market for consultants out there and consulting firms, because that practicality, that application of a good framework is just so valuable. People will pay millions of dollars for it all the time.
Yeah, you know, that's what a solution is, right? It's a composite of different ideas and different ways to approach it. And you know, having been a consultant for years now, I can tell you there's many times I've walked in and I've told one client one thing, and I've gone to another client, I've told them the exact opposite.
Yeah.
But you know, it was based on goals, culture, maturity, all those things. You know, it's like, you know, I will tell people, stop measuring first call resolution rate. It doesn't matter. But I will never say that to somebody who's just getting off the ground with trying to understand how to get their service desk to take calls better and build in knowledge and, you know, get queues prioritized.
Yeah.
Of course, first call resolution rate's a great metric. But once you get past that level of maturity, then never show it again. Never report on it again.
Yeah, if you're building a house, don't put in the window coverings before you put in the doors or the carpet or whatever. It's about where you're at in the journey, because the right tools may not be available to you yet. It just doesn't make sense. Or what you were using in the past, and I think this is much more common, what you were using in the past when you were installing the subfloor in your house, you may not use as soon as you get drywall up. If you are just learning guitar, you're picking up Nirvana and Pearl Jam like crazy, because they're pretty easy, the chord structure and all that. But when you get going, like, wow, I really want to play like Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then then you really have to up your game.
Yeah, you know, like a classic example that you've seen and I've seen is problem management. Organizations want to undertake problem management, but they have not even thought about configuration, service models, event management, correlation, change. So it's like, seriously, what do you think problem resolution will have to leverage?
Yeah, what is the common element for your incidents to relate to your problems besides a short description?
Yeah. So they get a big queue and a small queue.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly, yeah. If you can get a CMDB, or even just like half of a CMDB in place, do it with an Excel spreadsheet. You know your field services team has a spreadsheet. You know your service administration team has a spreadsheet. Import that stuff into your incident management and problem management, and you can get started right away with correlation. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. And that really also ties back to Ryan's blog post, which was fantastic. He actually charts out, like, you can see it. Just go read it. Stop taking my advice and read it. Actually, do it after the podcast. Listen to the rest of the podcast, then read it. Okay, so some other things from this week. Microsoft actually released containers, Microsoft-based containers. So anyone in the Docker world knows that this is a big deal, because it's the first time that Microsoft is looking at that. And it's kind of interesting. I read an article this week about how they were talking about how open source affects their community in a way that money doesn't. Oh, beautiful! You see, like, the adoption of this stuff when they make it free, and when people are actually, when you pay people to foster and nurture that community, the what you get out of it, it's exponentially beautiful.
But you know, it's funny. It's like everything comes in cycles. And so for anybody who's thinking, oh my gosh, Microsoft's finally getting into the game of microservices, I want you to Google Softricity. Softricity, S-O-F-T-R-I-C-I-T-Y, Softricity.
Okay.
It is a software that Microsoft bought, I don't know, maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago.
And sunsetted.
That was microservices and fundamentally exchanging services in a great computing format. So it was total virtualization. It was containers. It was high availability, grid computing, distributed computing. It was all the things we're talking about now as like, this is what we have to do.
Huh.
So everything comes in its time. It's just like I was talking to somebody the other day about, they was talking to me about ServiceNow and how long, I've been using it and around it. And I said, I've been around ServiceNow since they were probably a 25-person company. I said, but as a reseller at the time, the company I was working for was a reseller. We were reselling HP and CA and BMC and Confluer and all these other tools. I told them, I said, it's not that I didn't think it was a bad tool at the time. It was weak and it was missing some things. It was fine, but it was SaaS. And the market wasn't ready. I not only had to teach a CIO what ITSM was, which was hard enough back then, but now I had to teach him why it was okay to put all that, what he thought was sensitive, secure data into the internet thing, which later became called the cloud. It was bad timing. It was bad business for us because it was too much of a cost of sale was too high because we gave an educational sale.
Ah! Welcome back, Farah.
Hey.
Hey, Mama.
Oh, man, it's good to see you back.
It's good to see you guys.
Actually, no, you should get off the podcast and be mothering that daughter of yours. It's tough to balance that. It's tough to get back to work after after you disconnect something like that and you're gone for I don't know how many weeks. I wish it was like 50 weeks for maternity and paternity leave. But you try to get back into the swing of things, and it feels like, like my 5-year-old asked me the other day, Daddy, does your job make the world a better place?
And you're like, oh, great.
It makes a better place for you. I'm just kidding.
Hey, it does.
Well, there's truth to that.
Hey, so I actually saw one of your tweets. What did you actually tweet? You said you were going to talk about it this week.
Oh, yes, that's right. Oh, gosh, yeah, so a few things. One, being away for so long, it was hilarious. It was interesting. It was very hard to be disconnected for so long, one.
Did you forget how to use your computer?
Then, number two, I found myself this last week and a half kind of getting back into somewhat of a routine, but what was nice with all this quiet is I got to catch up on blog posts and articles and all sorts of things. So, Matt, I read your article on DevOps versus...
We already talked about it. You can't bring it up again.
I know. I figured you guys...
Unless she's going to say that she loves it, then she can talk about it.
But I did. That's why, the whole broccoli kale thing. So I figured, and then I've been catching up on podcast episodes. So it was nice that in some ways I got to catch up on some of this stuff. But my tweet was on an article that I was reading and I was really excited about. So I had written Facebook as the new internet. Fascinating read. So this was an article that did a survey on a whole bunch of, I guess, Facebook users or just general, people in Asia and parts of Asia, and they didn't make the connection that Facebook and the internet, you're on Facebook, which means you're using internet. They just did not make the connection. So what was interesting was they polled them and said, do you have internet access? And the answer was no. But then when they said, do you use Facebook, the answer was yes in the survey. Huh. So the article talks about how, is Facebook becoming the new internet? It talked about how Mark Zuckerberg is doing all this work around making the internet accessible to everyone. But it was really fascinating because it totally meant a different wavelength or a different, I guess, route to take for advertisers, for media. If really the way that people are getting online is just because they live and breathe on Facebook, then what does that shape? How does that shape messaging and media and all of that good stuff? So it was actually really interesting, and I wanted to hear your guys' take on it as well.
Well, that's an interesting point. We talked, Baron and I talked about this on an episode with Chris a long time ago when Google started coming out with their refined search. And would this start to make people who had certain biases, like let's say that I hated gay people, for instance. If I started to search and read articles about other people who hated gay people, would that start to reinforce, like, well, of course this is the right attitude I have. Of course I'm right. Or if I said again, prejudice from any kind of profiling perspective. So it was interesting, and you think about it. cultures are microcosms. So I think it could. I think it's legit.
Yeah, it definitely affects who you are. I don't know. You know, the thing is like I'm on Twitter right now, and there's a lot of police brutality talk, and I follow a lot of human rights activists because I feel passionately about that stuff, and it's tough because it bleeds over into my ITSM space. Which, if you talk to Simon Moritz, he had the same problem where he's talking about human rights and IT at the same time, and of course they kind of they're not really kind of they're tied together, but it's a stretch.
No.
So he created nice. He created a separate Twitter account. I just can't bring myself to do it, and so like then I'm thinking, well, do I need to just not pay attention to it? Is it shaping who I am? And what's really tough, especially in the human rights space, and you see it all the time, is like the abuse that you get from stuff like that is just it's insane. If you stand up for an oppressed group, be it a race or a gender or any iteration of those things, you get attacked a lot. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, the only thing human rights and IT have in common is that they're both full of ignorant people.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's true. I mean, okay, but there are ignorant people everywhere. Or
yes.
And I post about this on Facebook all the time. Really, just keep an open mind, people. Engage in an adult conversation where you're actually considering other people's viewpoints and listening to them. We've come to this point where people think that they have the right to comment on everything, and that they won't flex on their ideas at all, and it quickly digresses into like this attack mode. Attack.
Human rights. How about mom blogs? Oh my God. Jeez. You want to talk about people attacking people? Holy crow. I've like followed these little product. There's this really cool Facebook page, the baby guy in New York City. And it's a long story. But anyway, I was just flabbergasted at the amount of mommy hate there is and people judging opinions. And it's like this guy, poor guy, puts out products and product reviews, and these people have these like ideas that this product means you are a lazy mother, and someone's like, how dare you accuse me of being a lazy parent? And I'm just like, wow.
And it comes to the point where you have to just turn off a lot of that stuff. It's a feature set that is shaping our culture and how we behave, and yet why are we letting web developers and web applications drive how we behave and interact? So I guess the moral of the story is be kind to each other. Most importantly, be kind to yourself. And if you're an application developer, diversify. Get some other people in your team that don't use tech all the time. Get some human rights activists on your staff. They aren't expensive. Most of them can't find jobs. So go and hire some of them, please.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I think it goes back to one of our earlier episodes on this show where we talked about bringing diverse perspectives and skills to your team, and that's what IT needs to really refresh itself. And it's going back to that, I think, everywhere, bringing in a cross-breed of skills and perspectives and diversity, I think, is going to be what's going to be that differentiating factor for organizations to be successful. They have to embrace diversity. They have to be more pluralistic in what they do and how they view different things, and that's just going to be what is going to help organizations take that next step forward and differentiate.
100%. 100%. Yeah. You can't build an innovation culture or a culture of creativity without diversity.
Yeah.
And
provide some. Oh. So provide some value too when you're doing this stuff. Like even if it is blatant self-promotion, at least provide some value. The worst part of this job, being a podcaster, is that you go on the internet and you search for ITSM or service management every week before you start up, and every week it's the same thing. So-and-so is giving a talk at such a little conference and they work for this vendor, and so-and-so, like that is the PR, those are the PR releases every single week about ITSM. We need something innovative and new, and don't destroy your communities. I saw this today. I'm shocked to learn it. I won the ServiceNow hackathon 2 years ago, 2013. Now it's 2013. Yahoo! And this year I can't participate unless I pay $5,000 because partners have to pay $5,000 to enter into the hackathon. Like, think about what that does for your community. Some of your strongest developers, some of your most passionate fans can't do what you want them to do. So
the idea of a hackathon even comes from really smart people who are not part of ServiceNow.
That'll kill me.
Yeah, now you got to pay for your own idea. That's foolishness. It'll be interesting. I'll be at Knowledge, and it's the first time I'll be there without being part of a vendor team. So we'll
good
see
luck not getting hired.
Awesome.
I'm gonna see. So at HDI, I did the same thing. It was like the first time ever at HDI or an ITSM event where I wasn't on the other side of the booth, and I actually went around the booth thing. I mentioned this on my podcast with All Things ITSM. The little passport thing, I ended up throwing that thing out. I'm like, this is the stupidest thing to get these stamps and stickers. I said, why are people doing this? Because to like win a prize, I said, this is not. I'd rather just go buy the thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So lame.
Well, again, and then that's a whole other topic, right? Gamification for the wrong reasons, or when it's not effective, right?
Yeah.
Not effective at all. So
but it wasn't even gamification though. It was like there was no measurement to it. There's like no like how many booths I went to and did I get to all of them? Did I answer a question when I was at the booth? It should have been. We gotta jazz that up somehow. Someone's gonna fix that.
Well,
DevOps is gonna fix it.
Come by the Maryville booth. Cha-ching! No, I'm just kidding. But I took your advice, Hooper, this time. Our booth is real simple. A lot of power ports. So if you need to charge up your phone, come by. Like
sweet
seating. We have like
I will be there.
Zero messaging, no handouts. Like we went for the agile approach. So thank you for the tip.
Nice.
Come and see it. If you gotta give me some feedback, Hooper. That's what I'm saying. No one else.
I will do. I will do.
I mean, come if you're interested, but don't.
Yeah.
This is going to be the first time since '09 I haven't been at Knowledge.
Oh.
I miss all of conference season.
You'll be there in heart.
I will be there. I'll be there. I'll be tweeting somehow, somewhere. I'll talk.
You'll be in the same place I am. No hackathon for you. So I've got two more news things before we got to wrap up. Google Scholar was released. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. There's a plugin that they added that allows you to highlight text on anywhere, on any web page, and search related research.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Unbelievable. Huge game changer. Like the educators are just retweeting that like crazy. And then there was this watch release today by Apple, and I'm such a fanboy that I can't not mention it. I even pre-ordered it. Can you believe that? I paid
No, you didn't.
$350 for a watch.
I opened the email, I went to the website, and I'm like, no video camera. I am not paying more than $200 for a device that doesn't have a video camera.
Here's the thing. I paid for this for two reasons. Number one, to see what Chris Dancy is building, because that is interesting. And number two, Siri on your wrist, and you don't have to press a button, and that's it.
That's pretty cool. But, I'm a little disappointed, I have to say. So I did, when the Pebble came out, I ordered a Pebble. I find both watches, the Apple and the Pebble, I was hoping Apple would fix this. They're still extremely masculine. There's no feminine appeal. It really sucks.
Except for, the chankety pink wristband.
Yeah, and that's about it. I mean, it's kind of lame. I mean,
there's one metallic chain one that's
dainty.
There's one metallic chain one that's okay. It's got really fine chain links on it.
The one with 18 karat gold didn't work for you. The 18 karat gold one didn't.
Yeah, $20,000 later.
Yeah.
No,
Taylor Swift. Who's the one? Who's that celebrity that got her? Alicia. Who got? I can't remember. It was too early. I was feeding at 4 o'clock in the morning.
You said celebrity, and I just turned off. I was like, "There's no way I'm going to know this information."
Someone got her watch, her Apple Watch.
But yeah, Apple can't afford to pay fashion designers. Apparently, is what it comes down to. They don't have enough. $84 trillion in overseas banks. So, in any case, if you'd like to hack business technology, you need to keep your money elsewhere, or just watch this podcast. So
or borrow Matt's phone.
Or borrow my phone. Actually, and what's funny is I did actually upgrade my phone to the giant one, the giant iPhone Plus. It's actually the right size for my hand.
I was going to say, I hope you made a decision to buy an Apple because you just bought the watch and you didn't buy the phone. That would have been pretty dumb.
That would have been terrible. I can't pair it with my Android phone.
I can't finish the text message I started with the tap.
But what's funny is my other phone broke on the same day that this was shipping here. The same day I dropped it and it broke.
Oh, no.
In any case, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in, Ryan. Thanks for the
good to see you, Farah.
We'll see you. Yes, thanks for coming back, Farah. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
Bye, everybody.